Good day to all of the grade 10 boys and girls. This is your first official tourism lesson for the year 2021. I will be presenting this lesson to you today in regards to the introduction to tourism. Now, I think that you might have encountered this before, that when you said you are going to follow tourism as a subject, people asked you, what's that? What's tourism? And it's very difficult to answer that question because the tourism field is so big that it's difficult just to explain in one simple sentence what tourism entails. So if we have a look at some of the things that you can see in the tourism industry, it is spectacular to know that we live in a country so beautiful as South Africa. Now, what is tourism? If you ask me, I will think, let's say maybe our summer vacation, the times I spent on the beach, enjoying some drinks, having a lot of friends around me, taking some photos. And yes, that is tourism. But it's much more than just that. If we have a look at our sporting events, where the Springboks play a rugby game and we have all the supporters waving their flags and sending a vibe out, we get so emotional for our country, and we create a national pride amongst all the people in South Africa, and that is also what helps build tourism. Then we have landmarks such as the Orlando Towers in this photo, or we can say Table Mountain, Robben Island. That's all landmarks. That's things that South Africa has to offer that you can find nowhere else in the world. And that's what makes tourism in South Africa unique and special. And that is the ultimate idea that attracts people to want to come and visit South Africa. So if we have a look at some brain field, and that's just extra information that's not really written into the curriculum, but it's extra information that will help you to put all of these little different aspects together. So if we have a look at South Africa in the whole, we see that we have a uniqueness among us because of our diversity. Now, what is diversity? Diversity means a whole lot of different kinds of something. Now, if we have a look at South Africa's tourism industry, it's amazing to see that our diversity is spread among, let's say, our natural environments. It's spread among our cultures, our cuisine, our fauna, our flora. So we have much to offer tourists that visit South Africa. Now, if we have a look at the Minister of Tourism, it's Minister Ngubane. Now, she is at the head of the tourism department if we have a look at the broadest perspective of the management of tourism in South Africa. Now, she works for the state, and it is from her, she's like the head of the whole tourism industry in South Africa, and you will hear a lot of the NDT from now on up until grade 12. Now, the NDT stands for the National Department of Tourism. Now, that is just the department that is represented by the state of South Africa, which handles all of the tourism sectors. Okay, so if we have a look at the definition, what is tourism? It is a long definition that's difficult to just memorize as it is. So I took 4 different pictures to help you to remember this definition much better and much easier than you should have done it just as a theoretical part. So our first picture is a picture of a book. So if I look at a book, I study something, or I think about, I study something. So it is the study of activities, because when we go on vacation, or when we tour around in a certain country, we are not only going to sit there and wait for the time to pass. We are going to do things. So that's our activities. We are going to make use of services. If you eat at a restaurant, it's a service. If you pay someone to learn you how to surf, that is a service that you are going to make use of. And all of these things creates an experience afterwards. You will come home and you will tell your friends or your relatives and tell them what nice experience you had on your summer vacation. So that is the first one. It's a study of the things we're going to do. So it's our activities. And the services that we use that leads to a travel experience. Our second one is a tourist. Now, this tourist looks like he's going for a hike, and that tells us that each tourist's behavior differs from another one. I might go on vacation, and I might like things such as leisure activities or shopping. You would go on a tour, and you would rather like doing things such as adrenaline activities like bungee jumping and river rafting. Okay, so tourist behaviors will differ, and the reason why they travel will also differ from each tourist to another one. Then our next one is a clock. Now, this clock shows us that traveling does not take up a big part of our life. It's a temporary movement for a small while, or for a little while, we go somewhere else. So it's the temporary movement from people from one area to another. Okay. Our last one is a picture of a little house and a car. So when we travel, we use transportation, and this might be road transport or water transport or rail transport. It doesn't matter what transportation you make use of, but it's still part of your traveling experience, together with your accommodation. If you stay with friends and family, that's also part of your accommodation, as well as tourists staying at a hotel or at a caravan park or at a guest house. It doesn't matter. You have to stay somewhere and you have to get there. So that is part of tourism. So if we have a recap session, the first one is it is the study, the book, the study of activities and services that you use that creates a travel experience. The next one is our tourist. The tourist tells us that people travel for different reasons and they have different behaviors on their trips. The clock resembles a temporary movement from one place to another. And then the last one is we make use of accommodation and transportation while traveling. So that is a long definition in 4 different parts, so that you can just understand it and learn it much easier. Okay, so the characteristics of a tourist. When we describe a tourist, it's usually someone that travels longer than 24 hours and shorter than a year. You are away from your home at this time, and it can be for multiple reasons, as we said before. But then we also have excursionists. Now, these type of tourists is tourists that only travels for periods shorter than 24 hours. So they travel to another destination, but they return on that very same day. We call these tourists excursionists or day tourists. Now we're going to look at terms such as incoming and outgoing tourists. Now, incoming tourists mostly refer to inbound tourism, and then outgoing tourism as outbound. Now, outbound means you leave your country. Okay, so if we have to draw this in a picture, you will see we have an arrow that exits the international borders of South Africa. There you will have a international border as well as at the top here and at the bottom there. So somebody that travels from Gauteng maybe to Lesotho is also an outbound tourist because he moves from South Africa over the international border into Lesotho. Then our inbound tourism is when someone enters a country from another country. So our arrow just comes into South Africa. The tourism concepts will be discussed with you in part 2 of this lesson.